Yes.
Hey there, Jordan Sheridan, live Status Coup in the house. Hope everybody's having a lovely day. It's been a busy couple days for me as I am juggling book writing and investigative reporting on a different story, trying to keep the lights on here. But I hope everybody's doing well in these trying times. Smash that like button so we can get more people in. Joining me, one and only Steve Grumbine of the Real Progressives. How you doing, Steve?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Let me see that shirt. Meshuggah. No, Meshuggah.
Meshuggah.
I like that.
That's
Wonderful.
what I cheated on you on Tuesday last week by going to see these guys. It's the first concert I've been to since the pandemic. So
So
53 and representing in the pit.
are they a Jewish rock band, a Jewish grunge band?
No, they are the probably the heaviest tech metal, the math metal band out there. So they've been around for 30 plus years. So it was my little Zen moment. I got to experience massive awesomeness. So I needed it.
Awesome.
I needed a break, man. I needed a break bad.
You do. Well, I hope you bring that heavy metal because we're going to start with a topic near and dear to your life. But folks, do me a favor. We're not doing countdowns anymore. I won't explain. But obviously, we start with lower numbers. So please smash that like button. Share this live stream so we can get it out to more people. The more, the merrier. After this stream, I'll be doing a call-in at 6 o'clock Eastern. So cancel your dinner plans and call in. We'll be talking Bernie and whatever else is on people's mind. So, Steve, there's a lot going on.
Yes, sir.
We have kind of this small story that essentially the Federal Reserve has promised a crippling recession that the media just seems to gloss over. So we'll definitely get into that. There seems to be an academic of all people who's screaming and sounding the alarm. I think it's from Yale, actually, about basically the Federal Reserve and their inflation interest rate hikes basically are going to lead us to economic ruin. We also have, I'm not doing this for clicks, but Bernie, we got to cover that Bernie seems that he's tweaking a little bit his language on 2024. I'm not pro or against yet. I still haven't made up my mind, but we'll get into that. Bernie went on Seth Meyers last night and then this morning on CBS, and he had a different answer about 2024. He is 81 years young, so we'll get into that. We also have a Texas attorney general fled his home while being issued a subpoena. So-called rule of law party. So we'll get into that. And then Striketober. Striketober is with us again. Colin and I, last Striketober, that was the explosion in worker strikes in 2021. We went out there to cover the John Deere strikes. Well, there's now an explosion of strikes happening again. And also another hurricane. Obviously, Hurricane Ian is about to cripple, hopefully not, but about to really do some damage to my alma mater, Tampa, Florida, where I went to college. But there's another hurricane brewing. It's called capitalism. So we're going to get into that. You're going to blow your fucking gasket when you see that companies are requiring their workers to work during this hurricane. Shocking. So a lot to get to. Looking forward to it. Again, please smash that like button and also subscribe to Real Progress in Action right in the description. That's Steve's Real Progressives channel. So let's start with, I don't know, bread and butter issues, bread and table. So it gets a little boring. I think people's eyes kind of gloss over when the Federal Reserve is mentioned. But the Federal Reserve, contrary to, you and I have discussed this, it's supposedly independent. I mean, the president appoints the Federal Reserve chair. I think there's some connection between the Federal Reserve and the executive branch. But the Federal Reserve has raised interest rates twice now, 0.75%, or 0.75 points, to tame inflation. They're not doing anything about corporations price gouging, but they keep raising interest rates, and now they're hinting at doing it again. Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve Chair, basically said that it's acceptable that, yeah, unemployment will go up, jobs will be lost. But a professor is not having it. A professor really blew his lid, surprisingly, on CNBC, which took me by surprise that CNBC allowed this. But he sounded off on what you and I, a Wharton professor. So Wharton is like for the, Wall Street people. They go to Wharton. Mergers and acquisitions people go to Wharton. Financial lawyers go to Wharton. Wharton's one of the best business schools in America. But this Wharton professor is really calling out the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell. Let's play part of it, and then we'll respond.
Jeremy Siegel of the Wharton School. He joins us right now. Professor, it's good to see you again. What are your thoughts as we watch these lows of June at least be taken out from the Dow standpoint, and maybe in the days ahead we find the other major averages in this same precarious place?
Yeah, certainly. Scott, I find it very amusing. A year ago at that September meeting, when we had booming commodity prices, when housing prices rising at the fastest rate in post-war history, when we had all commodities going up at rapid rates, Fed Chairman Powell and the Fed said, we don't see any inflation. We see no need to raise interest rates in 2022. Now, when all those very same commodities and asset prices are going down, he sees, stubborn inflation that requires the Fed to stay tight all the way through 2023. Makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Way too tight. We do not have to get anywhere near that level to stop inflation, because all the inflation is basically stopped. It's basically stopped. I mean, you had a headline just came across 3 minutes ago, oil back to January levels. That's before Russia invaded Ukraine. You can see what's happening to commodities. We're going to get the Case-Shiller index next week. It's going to show no increase or a decrease for the first time in years. And that's a lagged indicator. On the ground, commodity, all the prices are going down. The only thing that's not going down is wages. And by the way, wages are in catch-up mode. Don't argue they're pushing inflation. They're lagging inflation. I mean, the workers are trying to get a little bit back of what the inflation happens to be. I think the Fed is just way too tight. They're making exactly the same mistake on the other side that they made a year ago.
There are those who agree with you, who think that the Fed is oversteering.
Yeah,
but saying it doesn't do anything for the scenario that we're currently in. If they continue to do it, whether you think it's right or wrong, if they continue to do it, what does it mean for stocks?
Well, until he sees the light. And
he also called out the journalists for not asking Jerome Powell any tough questions. Hey, points to academia for once. Usually I find them to be, your typical neoliberal Chardonnay drinking hags, but I think he got it right, and I don't think anybody really knows what's coming. It's going to be bad.
Well, it already is bad, and look, the idea of raising interest rates. I mean, just put everything you think you know out, all the cute quips, all the fun thoughts that are said at the bar stool. Just remember, the reason why they're raising interest rates is literally to intentionally, it's not like in writing, it's just not like some speculation. They are intentionally trying to bring the economy into recession. And they're not just doing it here in the US, they're doing it around the world. And the problem here is that people, because they don't understand, they just go along with the flow, because they've been convinced that there's inflation. And this guy just told you correctly that inflation, the commodities and the assets have dropped now. Okay, we went through whatever bump we had coming out of COVID. And now the point of it is to bring the economy into recession. what they're not saying, although they did say at the Federal Reserve meetings, okay, was that business leaders were saying employees have too much power. We've got to make it harder on them. They have too much freedom. We've got to clamp down. That is the real impetus behind these hikes, is to basically lay off people that don't want to be laid off, intentionally create unemployment, because by having unemployed people, their rule book, and this is going way back, called NARU, okay, the non-accelerating rate of inflation, okay?
Steve, I love it. I love it when you talk sexy to me.
Yeah, NARU, yeah.
NARU.
The reason why they're doing this is to intentionally lay people off. And they believe that this is how you control inflation. This is right-wing thinking. This is disgraceful centrist Democrat thinking. Disgraceful, by the way. And this is also LOL libertarian thinking. So all three, Austrian, classical, neoliberal, and this whole new Keynesian approach is all about raising interest rates. So their intent is to literally get you and I, or as many people as they can, to be laid off. Larry Summers has said it repeatedly. This is not a secret, folks. I want you to understand they are intentionally trying to bring about a recession that will intentionally lay off tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, to tame a non-existent inflation. When I say non-existent, remember, inflation is brought about by the prices government pays for services. That's the base price. All the other things, the price hikes, are what we call relative value. In other words, they made a decision to jack rates up. Okay, they've made a decision to raise the cost of their products. That is not something that happened on high from God or from some Cthulhu or anything else. It is greedy motherfuckers that have decided that they want to get a little bit more from you. And the reason they want to do that is this. You are supposedly getting over from the money we received. I didn't receive a cent, that we received during the pandemic. And they want to make sure that you have to take whatever the hell job they offer you, no matter what, because you'll be so desperate. Just like it was back in 08 and 09 when people were driving from West Virginia to Pennsylvania to try and find a midnight shift at Walmart. This is what they're gunning for, because that's the only thing they know, how to tame inflation, instead of putting price controls, instead of doing it preemptively, instead of after trying to claw money back, trying to claw things back. They should be doing it up front and not allowing the kind of capital accumulation that allows them to run our lives the way they do. This is if you're going to keep capitalism in place to begin with. And let's be fair, we don't have nearly enough people that understand or want to destroy capitalism in a meaningful way. They might say it, they might use the memes, they might put their fist in the air, might have a bumper sticker, but the actual understanding of how that works out is not known. So it's not going to happen. And
Right.
Since we don't have the numbers of people that are knowledgeable on the subject to really take to the streets and fight for this esoteric thing called interest rates and MMT and all the other stuff we talk about, it's largely going to be just pain and suffering because we don't have the tools to fight back. We're trying to educate, but it takes a lot of people to really take to the streets and say, oh, hell no. Mm-hmm. And one of the things you said, Jordan, at the very beginning, I want to be crystal clear. The Fed was spoken into existence by Congress. Forget Wilson's deathbed, whatever. The fact of the matter is the Federal Reserve was spoken into existence by Congress, is fully regulated by Congress. Congress can change anything it wants about the Federal Reserve Act. It is a law that they wrote. It can anything. So stop giving the Federal Reserve all this extra credit that the anti-Semites on the right typically do. The fact is that this right here is a case of monetarists, the libertarian strain. It's all over government, the pro-business class, the Democrats that you've all elected, these corporate centrists that you said out they're the lesser evil. This is their game plan. This is what they do. Literally, playbook, textbook, right there. So that guy, he was right on, but he's a finance guy. He's thinking stocks. Stocks don't have anything to do with the why behind this. This whole thing is intentional to make you and I and others be laid off. That's the deal.
They're raising prices because they can. They're raising prices because they can. They're raising.
Yep, that's exactly correct.
For lack of a better word, is good. Greed, for lack of.
But I have to say, we're capitalists.
Sorry, just trying to get all my favorites in. So A couple things. And remember, smash that like button. We got almost 200 watching, but only 100 likes. We need another 100 people. Press that like button. Do it. Smash it like it's Jerome Powell. Now,
Hey, can we take one quick second?
sure, sure.
There's a big problem here. And give me the solo screen. You don't want to have to eat this one, Jordan. Colin, pump me up solo here, brother. This what you're talking about. Somebody out here said 40% of America's money supply has been conjured in the last 2 years. I just want to be really explicit about this. Every single dollar in tax collected is purged. So all the money into the system has been also money going out of the system being deleted at the bottom. The drain at the bottom is taxation. Okay. So it's not like it just keeps building and building and building and building and building. Okay. All money is new spent money and all tax dollars are deleted. That's the way the thing recycles itself. Okay. The other thing is this. Most of the money that you see that people complain about called bank money is what we call loans. We take out loans. You and I take out loans. That's bank money. That's not from the government. That right there is a bank denominated IOU. It has to be paid back. When it's paid back, that money is gone. It's purged. The only thing that's left for the bank is the interest, okay, that you paid. The fact of the matter is that is a political decision. That is not it has to be that way. That is a political decision because people keep voting for neoliberals. You keep getting neoliberal policy, and therefore they keep appointing neoliberals to the Fed. Why do you think Biden kept Trump's Fed chair? Because they're all neoliberals, but there's going to be somebody in there that defends the Democrats that's absolutely positive they're doing the right thing. The fact of the matter is they're not. This is right here is right-wing, folks, right-wing economic policy from your Federal Reserve because of you electing a right-wing president in Joe Biden and because he went with Donald Trump's Fed chair and kept him in power. Remember that. Never forget it. That is so important because you keep doing what you do, you're going to keep getting what you get. And you know what? We earned this. We deserve this recession that Biden and his Federal Reserve chair are doing because we put him in office. That's what we chose. We made that decision. Now we live with it, right? Anyway,
Right.
I didn't want you to have to deal with that, Jordan.
It's okay. I'm no expert on the Federal Reserve. That's why I have you. But I will say I am an expert on corruption and
Yes, you
corrupt
are.
capitalism psychology. And I'll say I think there's another thing going on here. I don't think the Federal Reserve is blind to the very, I wouldn't call it a tidal wave, but the beginnings of a worker uprising in America over the last, let's say, 3 years. It really started with the teachers in West Virginia in 2018 who went on strike. But, I mean, we're already seeing hashtags for Striketober. We've seen workers having more leverage, the Great Resignation, record number of workers quitting. I don't think the U.S. government particularly likes that. I don't know if the Federal Reserve particularly likes that. Workers actually picking and choosing where they work. They see workers also working from home, which a lot of these capitalists don't like. They see, obviously the success of the Starbucks union drive, but now Trader Joe's is successfully unionizing. Amazon, even though they're trying to stop the results of the election, more Amazons are filing for election. Well, if you fuck up the economy and lay a lot of people off, in theory, there goes that leverage. Workers got to take what they can get again.
It's exactly the case. I don't nothing further to say. You got it exactly correct. Exactly correct. 100%.
Let's cut that out. That part.
You did. I mean, think about it. Every single time what is this about, really? If you go back to the end of slavery, okay, when they quote unquote made slavery illegal, except for when the state does it through prisons and stuff like that, right? What did they do? They passed vagrancy laws. They passed a bunch of laws to make sure that slaves that were now free men, if they did anything wrong, would instantly be back on that chain gang doing some work for the state, right? And it's been going on nonstop. They've been shifting the way, quote unquote, the labor is taken care of, and they use whatever tools they have to keep us under thumb. It just changed form. We went from chattel slavery, where people are whipped and beaten and killed and raped and destroyed, to a new form of debt slavery and wage slavery with an open air prison that we're all in. And I mean, this is exactly what they're doing. They're tightening the screws. This is like the slave owner is driving it down to make sure that we are disciplined. They're disciplining labor. It's exactly what they're doing. I mean, that's the harsh version of what you said, but what you said is exactly correct.
Well, I'll just say this. We're talking in a lot of fancy terms of this and that, but at the end of the day, what was it, 2 months ago, I did a reporting tour on inflation, and people with jobs were really devastated with jobs. If they're going to lose their jobs now, I don't see these. I mean, gas near me is still like $3.40 a gallon. I don't see the food prices, quickly going down. Electricity is up. Rent is through the roof in a lot of places, even rural places. So if you then add on, potentially tens of thousands, if not more, losing their jobs, it's going to be really, really ugly. And you will see CNBC, CNN, MSNBC saying, we spent too much money. So there you go.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
The headlines are out there right now. They're pumping up that the CBO is crying the poor mouth about Biden's freaking student debt thing. And it was a trash bill to begin with. $400 billion is what they're claiming it will cost. That money has already been spent. It's already been spent. They already paid the institutions. They already paid for the books. They already paid for the dorm rooms or whatever else, food and everything for the students. It's already been spent. The only thing they're doing by stopping that little pittance, and it is a pittance, he could do it all. That little pittance is simply a matter of the federal government saying, we're not going to collect. It doesn't matter. Because what happens, if you remember what I said, every time the government collects money from us, it's deleted. The government has no need for money. It creates it literally every single time it spends new money. It doesn't ever reuse money, ever. Every time it comes back as a tax, it's gone. And the student debt payments are a de facto tax. They're a de facto tax the government doesn't need. By taking it out, they are literally breeding austerity into it. For 3 years, my friends, we have not made any payments on student debt. 3 years. And you think that suddenly it's going to bring about inflation, which is what they're trying to drive at by not making people pay this back? It's ridiculous. And it's more ridiculous because people believe it. Because you got the group A that's like, well, I didn't get my student debt taken care of. Then you got group B who's saying, hey, that's a handout. You got group C who's saying, hey, that's elitist. Why should we give anybody a gift? And it's on and on and on. All these stupid comments instead of understanding in aggregate for all of us, when the rest of society is not burdened with debt, everyone benefits. But they can't get that to their head because the goal is not for us to all benefit. The goal is for us to be studious, to support their efforts, whatever they want, whatever the master wants. That's what this is about. So, I mean, it's a little harsh, but it's true. And that's what you're dealing with, Jordan.
Absolutely. Remember, folks, smash that like button. A reminder, at 6 o'clock Eastern, I will be on Callin, the app. So make sure you are downloaded Callin, Callin. And follow Status Coup on Callin. I will be taking your calls on Callin. We could talk whatever you want. Bernie, the end of the American economy, whatever you want. We'll take your calls at 6 o'clock. Shifting now to Bernie. Listen, there's not a lot of hope in the progressive movement. Some people say burn it down, fuck the elections. Some people say don't go. We can't do away completely with elections. Some people are mad at Bernie. Some people say, stop being mean and piling on Bernie. What I will say, Bernie a couple months ago said, if Biden runs again, I'm not running. His friend Joe, he said that. Well, unless he, misspoke, he said something else today. So Bernie went on Seth Meyers last night and CBS this morning. There's a couple clips I want to play. Colin, let's do the first one.
One way that wages might go up, and this goes to working people as well, is making college more affordable. There's a controversial move right now from the Biden administration to forgive $400 billion, according to CBO, in student loans. Most people in this country still do not go to college. So that means that's a benefit for a minority of us. And it's controversial. Where do you stand on it?
Well, at a time when the Trump administration gave $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1% and large corporations, when you have major corporations today, some of the biggest in this country, make billions of dollars a year in profit, don't pay a nickel in taxes. You know what? I think it is appropriate to tell a younger generation that in many ways has a standard of living which is lower than their parents, that we are going to help. What was their crime? They wanted to go to college. I have talked to people, medical school, nursing school, leave school $100,000 in debt. That's insane. So I think we need to help those people. But I think, Tony, the point that we got to get back to, we don't talk about it on TV very much. We don't talk about it in Congress very much. You got 3 people in America who own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. Gap between the very rich and everybody else is growing wider. Maybe, just maybe, we demand that the people on top start paying their fair share of taxes.
I wanted to play that. I mean, what he said was great. I mean, it's what we expect. But is it controversial? I don't see any polls that, like, the majority of people don't support this. I see a lot of polls. The majority of people support this. They're framing it that this is controversial. It's only controversial to these rich fucking news anchors.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. Well, it's to the handlers as well. I mean, this is the narrative. This is the controlled opposition. This is the spin. There you go. It's just the spin cycle, man. They're trying to make sure we believe that it's controversial.
Right.
Just like they want us to believe legalizing marijuana is controversial or gay marriage is controversial. It's only controversial in like weird circles. It's just stupid.
Are you trying to tell me?
It's always a psyop. Fucking psyop. It's always a psyop.
There you go.
Yes.
All right. I want to play the next Bernie clip.
You're 81, President Biden is 79, and there is a group of younger politicians who say now is the time to let the younger generation come through.
And most Americans, according to numerous polls,
Exactly.
including the CBS poll,
Yes.
say, yes, there should be age limits.
Yes.
And in fact, the older people support age limits more than younger people.
Yeah.
Where are you on that question,
Yeah.
Mr. 81-year-old?
Yes.
Excuse me, what did you say?
Exactly.
Look, this is what I think. You can't categorize everybody. You know, you're different than everybody.
Yeah.
You know, we're all different.
Yeah.
You got to look at the individual. But what I think we do, guys, is we look too much at race, at gender, at age. What does somebody stand for?
Yeah.
You know? What are their views? Do you agree with them? Are they standing for you? Or are they standing for the big money interest? And obviously, you want people who are competent, who are capable of the energy. I mean, my God, to be president of the United States requires an enormous amount of energy. But I would say, first of all, take a look at what people stand for. And we don't do that enough. We're too much into personality.
What people stand for and what are their capabilities.
Right.
Listen, I sit here, I can't imagine doing this job at 81 saying, Tony and Nate, do you have my sensible shoes? I can't imagine doing that. But, you know, who knows?
Yeah.
But as you sit here at 81 and Joe Biden's 79, do you think he should run again for the presidency?
Well, that's his decision.
I know it's his decision.
You know,
but
Joe
what
is
do
a friend of mine, and I think against enormous opposition, he has tried to do some very, very good things, and he will make that decision himself. But I think, again, and you know, you're not going to hear this much on corporate television, if I may say so. What we need is, Gail, what we need is
what do
people.
You think?
What do I think? That's his decision. No,
okay,
that's not. That's his decision.
All right.
What I think is we need millions of people to start reclaiming their country and demanding an economy that works for all. We have got to deal with the fact oil companies, huge profits, food companies, huge profits, while people can't afford to fill up a tank of gas.
My friend Joe. I played that clip, and I'm not saying this to kiss Bernie Sanders' ass. I've been very critical, particularly of his strategy or lack thereof, of this inside baseball shit, and, you know, kissing Biden's ass instead of going after Biden. But I will say, cognitively, there is no contest. I mean, I think Bernie Sanders, you know, if accounting for health in a year or two, would wipe the floor with Joe Biden on a debate stage. Or honestly, I think Bernie Sanders still is better than a lot of, in terms of actual delivery, than Kamala Harris, Pete, who's, you know, rehearsed and robotic, a lot of these, politicians. So putting aside whether you want him to run or not, I think he pretty much sounds the same to me that he sounded in 2016 when I was following him around the country, which I actually think matters if he had the balls to primary Biden, which I'm not sure he does. Getting to that, let's play this last clip, which was whether he would run again.
Do you plan to run again?
That's something, you know, I haven't made that decision. Right now, my focus, and I'll be going around the country, dealing with trying to elect often young progressives, often young people of color, who are prepared to stand up for working families and take on big money interests.
So that might not sound like anything, but it is different than what he said in June. In June, Colin, if you have the CNN article, I said Bernie Sanders says he won't primary Biden and would support him if he runs again. I reached out to Bernie's spokesperson before we went live, asking, was this just, he wasn't directly asked about if Biden runs again, or is he saying something different? Because that would be different if he's not ruling it out, even if Biden runs again. I don't want to get into if Biden's going to run again or not. I happen to think he won't. But what are your thoughts? You and I have both said major, bold structural change is not going to happen in electoral politics. That doesn't mean shun away electoral politics completely, but we have to focus on outside electoral politics, the union movement, strikes, tenants unions, obviously mutual aid. But I do think the progressive movement needs some kind of lift. I would say that. I think there's a lot of desolate progressives out there. I don't know if Bernie times 3, unless he had a completely different temperament and attack style, meaning actually have an attack style, I don't know if he would be the answer. But I wanted to get your thoughts.
Well, just remember this, right? The politicians that we have today, we may want better. We really may want better. But right now, we haven't been willing to go to the mat to make sure that we get better. We've gone out there, we put our fist in the air, we've taken the selfies, we've gotten the T-shirts, but we haven't actually gone out into the streets and made demands. So politicians are working with what they got because they know no matter how radical you feel right now, come November, whatever day they're going to have the election that year, that first Tuesday, they know that ultimately, if you're a Democrat, you're going to vote blue no matter who, most likely. Most likely. I'm not saying most. There's enough of a niche that says, hey, I never do it. But most will just party line, right? So in that sense, look at electoral politics for what it is. It's largely theater, but on the chance you get something good out of it, you may as well have somebody that speaks the language. But I want to read something to you that is important regarding anything to do with primarying in the Democratic Party. This goes back to the DNC attorney, Bruce Spiva, who represented the Democrats when they were being challenged about rigging elections and rigging primaries. And some of the things that came out were, there is no such thing as a Democrat. The DNC just encourages people to vote for the Democratic Party. There is no such thing. Number two, no one has any right to an expectation of a fair election if the DNC wishes to select the candidate in the primaries instead of a free election process. That's their right, he said. Donating money to Bernie Sanders doesn't mean that money was going to assist him to win the primary. You have no right to think the DNC was obligated to follow their own charter and internal policies about elections. Again, DNC attorney Bruce Spiva, not Steve Grumbine. So if somebody gets feels, talk to Bruce. And number 4 was discussion of any disputes with the DNC do not belong in the transparent process in a court of law. The DNC is a private association which should never be asked to engage in the discovery process or to reveal any of its internal workings or strategies should they decide to select a candidate rather than allow a fair election of candidates. So, folks, this is the stuff that I think about when I think about Bernie Sanders. I fought tooth and nail for him in part 1. I tripped and fell and fought my ass off for part 2. Now, part 3, I'm saying to myself, we need to be in the streets. Now, if Bernie runs, I mean, he is the best of what would be there. And say all you want about this, that, and the other. Look, electoral politics ain't where it's at. So if you want to make that the hill you die on, it's your life. You do your thing. For me, I believe that there's nobody. It doesn't matter if it's Bernie or if it's freaking, Eugene V. Debs at this point. You've got a Congress and you've got a Senate and you've got a Supreme Court, and all of that has to work together if it really works together and it really is going to serve our needs. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you got to be able to govern with that trash that you're surrounded by. So to me, if you want power, you want to stop feeling powerless, start organizing, start bonding, start working together to mobilize. and take back your country. Stop waiting for a politician to do it. But you heard what Bruce Spiva said. And to me, and in this shithole of a system we've got, Bernie probably is the best chance we have if he were to run, but he won't run. And if he does run, remember, the DNC has already spoken.
So a couple things. And remember, smash that like button. We got 250 people watching, but everyone needs to press that like button. Couple things. Number one, putting aside whether he would run or not, I still think if Biden runs, he's not going to. Putting that aside for a second, let's say he did run.
Sure.
I think, listen, it is really, really unlikely that anyone primarying an incumbent president wins. I mean, it's never happened that I know of. So putting that aside, if anyone was going to even be competitive with the label progressive, it would be Bernie.
It'd be Bernie.
I mean, I think Marianne Williamson is lovely. There's whispers that or chatter that she might primary Biden. I don't necessarily think she would have much of a shot. She would, obviously she's an inspirational person. I don't think she would have a shot. Nina Turner, I don't know if she would run. I think she would have a better chance than Marianne Williamson, just based on who she is and her delivery. But I don't know if she would have a shot to actually compete. Bernie, I think it's unlikely that he would win for all the reasons we know, the rigging, all that. I did a video last week. The DNC literally right now is already running Biden's 2024 campaign. Not like Biden aides. The DNC is the apparatus for Biden 2024. So there goes neutrality. And the reporting is if Biden passes the baton and he doesn't run, then the DNC would that apparatus would then run the campaign for whether it's Vice President Harris or whomever. So,
who to judge.
So I think it's very important if you're primarying an incumbent. Number one, obviously he's a name brand. Number two, he's obviously popular. And number three, he has a built-in infrastructure, which I think he has squandered. He has not utilized his massive email list other than, hey, sign my petition, which we always get those emails. Hey, Bernie, sign my petition. But he still has the email list. He still has that infrastructure, digital organizers, all that. He's got Friends of Bernie, which is his parallel group, and you're going to need that. Whereas other people, whether it's Marianne Williamson, Nina Turner, name your person, progressive, you don't have that built in already. So those are the reasons I think he would be the only progressive that would have an iota of a chance. The problem is, I think if you are running against an incumbent president, you can't just run based on, well, I think my ideas are better. You have to run because you're going to say he is doing a bad job. He is not a friend of the worker. He is what the Democratic Party should not be. That it has to be an attack campaign if you're going to actually primary. And he has shown no inkling. We just played the clip. He's still calling him my friend. He's still giving him credit like he's fought against such obstacles. What obstacles? Any president that wanted these things would have railroaded Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema and raked them over the coals publicly a year and a half ago. Would have went on a holy crusade against these fucking assholes. So if Bernie runs again, I don't think he's going to run in a way. I think it would be more of 2016, 2020, maybe slightly sharper elbows. He's not going to go after Biden aggressively enough. And if you're going to actually compete with an incumbent president, you got to go for their fucking throat. And that's just not in him. So for those reasons, I am skeptical. I'm not saying I think he would be the best chance, but I'm skeptical that it would actually be a worthwhile pursuit, I guess.
Just remember, around the world, fascism is on the rise.
Italy just elected, basically. Yeah.
She's a proto-fascist, but she's definitely in that vein, and her party that she supports has a long history of fascism. But it's important to note, and people blow me off literally when I say this, but I'm going to keep saying it because it's true, even if it hurts some sensitive ears. The fact is that neoliberalism creates the freaking fertile soil, pours water on it, puts all kinds of miracle grow on it, and creates fascists. Because neoliberalism does exactly what Joe Biden did. He had the opportunity to eradicate all student debt without filling out a single form, without applying for it, without anything. He could have just do away with it. He could have instantly done that. He did not do that. That there's no getting around it. He did not do that. And so the people that did not get help, on top of the people that thought it was a handout anyway, he creates fascism because each one of those people is furious. They're pissed off. And then you start looking at the people that are desperately trying to afford their homes, trying to feed their families, etc. And there is no relief coming at all. Zero. So this is what created Nazi Germany. You think about the Treaty of Versailles and all the other crap that happened back then. You gave a bunch of people. There's nothing inherently fascist about German people. However, when you give them there is no alternative, you make the economic conditions as crappy as possible, which we're about to do in this country, and you start doing these things. You don't act like, oh, I can't believe it happened. Oh my God, what happened here? How did this come to be? Oh my God, this is Fascism Factory 101. This is it. And if you don't remember, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I wanted to play this clip, Colin, if we have it. Roger Stone, who, dirty trickster, Nixon's bag man or whatever, a clip came out recently of him basically saying, let's just steal the election and, get violent if we have to, which this is how fascism begins. Let's play that clip, Colin.
What they're assuming is the election will be normal. The election will not be normal. Oh, these are the California results? Sorry, we're not accepting them. We're challenging them in court. If the electors show up at the Electoral College, armed guards will throw them out. I'm the president. You. You're not stealing Florida. You're not stealing Ohio. I'm challenging all of it, and the judges we're going to are judges I appointed. You. You're not stealing the election. That's basically what Bush did to Gore. So, if they want to run a bunch of fake ballots, we'll have an investigation. We'll say, these ballots are fake. Yep. Your results are invalidated. Goodbye. That's the way it's going to have to work. Wow. It's going to be really nasty. Wow. But you cannot count on, we're not going to get an honest election. Right. So let's say that Trump is a little behind right now, which he probably is. That doesn't bother me. But even if he wins an honest election, we're not going to have an honest election. Got it. They're going to steal it. They're stealing this blind in Florida right now. So, it's not the first time it's happened in this country, and it happens around the world. Yeah. So he's going to have to fight for the presidency in the courts. Our next election will be decided in the courts. Wow. Because they cheat, and we don't cheat. Yeah. We've never cheated.
Colin, do you have the other one where he said, let's get right to the violence? It's in the doc. I texted it to you, too. Hold on. All right, while he's getting it, there's another one, Colin, where he just said, let's get right to the violence. But I'm just playing it because it's on camera, but that's not like just Roger Stone. That kind of thinking is spreading throughout the Republican Party. Sure, I think neoliberal Democrats are breeding grounds for it, but we are where we are. We're seeing, I think there was a report that came out that, there's more election deniers running for Congress than people who, confirmed it. So, yeah, I think I think what you're saying is very accurate, and it's very ugly times as far as strongman dictators, basically.
We have a guy in Pennsylvania named Doug Mastriano who's running for governor against a guy named Shapiro. Shapiro is a standard neoliberal centrist crap candidate, okay? Mastriano is straight up batshit crazy. Like I have never really gotten too caught up in these election advertisements. They've never really done much for me. Mastriano is the first guy who I've ever seen literally pumping people against each other, neighbors against each other, not just against the politicians. This is it was like 3:00 in the morning. I'm calling one of my friends. I'm like, am I crazy? What the fuck did I just hear? And I played it for him, like, Jesus Christ. And again, I don't get spun up about this stuff normally. It's not my gig. I don't really even care normally, right? This shit's out of its world. The good news is Mastriano's losing on paper anyway. At least it looks like Republicans aren't backing him, and he's just going to fade away. Fingers crossed for my state, which is a purple state to say the least. But it's all over the country, all over the country. These
Right.
stop the steal crays are out of their minds, and that's no defense of Joe Biden, folks. I think you already know. Okay.
But you and I, we have this radical thought that you could walk and chew gum at the same time. You could
Yes.
call out Democratic Party corruption, which
Yes.
we don't, I mean, we do it all the time, but also not
Yes.
ignore white supremacy
right.
exploding, violent conspiracy movements exploding. Trump is basically not even winking and nodding, just talking directly to QAnon now. He's putting out memes. The storm is coming. It's insanity. I think we have the Roger Stone clip now.
Excellent. The violence. The voting. Let's get right to the violence.
Get right to it.
So that's him saying,
Shoot to
fuck the
kill.
voting, fuck the voting, let's get right to the violence, shoot to kill. So that's Trump's, like, basically, Roger Stone is one of Trump's bagmen who does his dirty work. Roger Stone has said Trump is the modern day Nixon. And the thing is, the thing that concerns me is, yeah, we focus on economic injustice, inequality, exploitation. We're about to get to a really horrible story. But make no mistake, if this continues and this kind of proto-fascism, and in some cases just straight up fascism continues, goodbye same-sex marriage. They're going to try to make it illegal, I think, to even be transgender. I think some of these people would go that far and criminalize parents with transgender kids. Try to take them away from their parents. A lot of the civil rights gains we've made, goodbye. I'm not trying to be alarmist, but that's what a lot of these people actually want. And if you actually just do away with the rule of law, even though we kind of don't have a justice system in this country, we have multiple systems of justice, one for wealthy white people, one kind of for, the middle ground, and then one for black, brown, and indigenous people. But these people are honestly doing away with the pretense and saying, elections, we win, that's it, even if we lose. And that's very alarming because I think what you're seeing now, the January 6th committee, they're actually successfully right now removing election officials around the country that certified the election for Biden and putting in election deniers. And there's a lot of election deniers that have a shot at winning Secretary of States around the country and other races.
Hey, real quick, I think you've got a great comment in here that I would like you to highlight if you wouldn't mind. Standing Alone is the name of the person at 546. He said, while Maloney is a fascist, if Colin, or if you could put that up on the screen momentarily, I want to give this person credit where credit is due here. This particular comment is great. Standing Alone, I want to give you props for being able to walk and chew gum like what Jordan was just saying. This is a really important thing. The EU is an absolutely insane neoliberal project. The US was a neoliberal project. The EU is a neoliberal project akin to what's happening in the United States. And it right now is the worst possible thing, because when you look at Brexit, for example, right, the idea of what was going on in England with Brexit, there was a legitimate reason for Brexit that had nothing to do with white, nationalism or anything else. Had to do with neoliberalism and the predation that occurs with a neoliberal philosophy. And so you're exactly right with Maloney being a fascist. She is horrible. Like, there's nothing good about her. But the one thing we have to give her credit for is she was fighting against the neoliberal EU overreach that is going on out there. Neoliberalism is evil, and it creates that fascist shit. So I want to just state for the record, that was a really great comment. For what it's worth, I really appreciate when people take a minute to think about what they're saying. And Standing Alone, that was a great comment. Way to go.
Absolutely. And thank you. Keep those super chats coming. I'm going to read them at the end. Colin, I'm going to skip the third topic. I want to go right into hurricane capitalism. I'm not trying to be coy or playful, because there's a real hurricane about to really do some damage. So be safe down in Tampa and parts of Florida that are about to have it. If you actually had a governor who wasn't giving massive tax breaks to corporations and wealthy people, you might have more money for hurricane preparedness. But I digress. There are literally companies right now telling their workers, come in, bring sleeping bags while a hurricane's about to hit. It's insane. I just kind of got this from Jonah Furman's Twitter. He is a great labor reporter from Labor Notes. He was kind of soliciting stories of these companies that are mandating their workers to come in. This is from Jonah said, employees at marketing firm Postcard Mania in Clearwater, Florida, are not only being asked to work through the hurricane, but are being told to bring their kids and pets to stay at work overnight so as to continue to service our national clients. And in response to that, somebody tweeted, my best friend's little sister lives in St. Pete and works at Hooters, and they closed their corporate office but are still expecting people to show up for work at the restaurants.
Because that is the most important thing. If you don't got your Hooters, what do you got, right?
I mean, I find their chicken wings delightful, but
I've never had them.
This is absolutely insane. I mean,
you read
literally,
Playboy for the articles, right?
risk your life for your shitty mid-level paycheck to paycheck job.
Horrible. It's horrible.
The next tweet is a little bit more information on that company. Wild. Here are the CEO's remarks on a staff call sent out with minutes from the meeting. Anyway, bring your pets, bring your kids. Jason can start blowing up those air mattresses. Raise your hand if you're scared of the hurricane. It's really not going to be that scary. This is from the CEO of Postcard Mania, which is, I guess, a marketing firm for small businesses. Bring your pets, bring your air mattresses. A hurricane's no big deal. By the way, there's some parts of South Florida that have never recovered from various hurricanes. Then we go to the next one, UPS. No friend of the worker. This is insane. UPS has drivers delivering packages in a mandatory hurricane evacuation zone in Florida. These workers should be given time to prepare for the storm and get out of town, not delivering boxes that are going to get washed away. It's unbelievable. And this is unrelated to the hurricane, but this is, if we have the Amazon video, Colin, if we could play that.
I'm driving one of these trucks for Amazon, and I'll show you the temperature this thing's getting in the back. 129, and it peaked at 135, and the current temp, outside temp, is 106.
By the way, based on Amazon making New York workers come in during blizzards and hurricanes, pretty sure Amazon facilities in South Florida, probably they're going to be telling them to come in too. Let me just play it.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed.
I mean, honestly, I think the workers need to sue these companies if something happens.
Yes.
If you get away with your life being saved and you make it through, your car could probably be damaged in the parking lot of your little sleepover party. God knows your pets. My dog is freaked out with thunder, let alone a hurricane. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know what. This is just disgusting, but there's no laws in America that actually punish companies for this or much of anything.
No, not at all. And they're, you have it right. The United Corporations of America. It's not a joke. It's not. The fact is that you have corporations at the table negotiating peace treaties or war. You got corporations at the table at all these things. Every one of these aspects of our lives are run by corporate people that are not elected. They're not in any way, shape, or form people that we would ask to be over top of us, yet they have insane control over our lives. I mean, insane. And this is ridiculous because imagine if you had I'm going back to the packages on the sandbags for a minute. I mean, they're talking about historic swells, historic tides, Historic. I mean, these are terms that they throw around a lot for effect, but historic. And we've already seen historic tides out there in Louisiana when they had the hurricanes come through there. We've already seen hurricanes come through New Jersey and elsewhere. They're saying this is going to be historic, a place that always gets slammed with hurricanes. It's going to be historic. And yet they're still sending those packages out there. And
our viewer is saying that too. I'm in Tampa right now. My boyfriend was being told if the sun was out, they had to come to work, Ames says.
I mean, I remember years ago in Washington, D.C. I'm from D.C., folks. I lived my whole life there up until about 15 years ago, and I came out to Pennsylvania. And in D.C., I remember having to drive into work, even though there was like a foot of snow on the ground. They didn't call it off. They didn't work from home. There was nothing. And if you were late, there was all kinds of shit. I mean, people were literally getting fired and docked for being late for work in the middle of a goddamn blizzard. This is nothing new. Unfortunately, our government does not serve our needs. It doesn't. It simply doesn't, folks. In all the evidence you have before you, it simply doesn't. It doesn't mean that government can't serve us. I want to be crystal clear there. I'm just telling you, our government is captured by corporate interests. It is the United Corporations of America. And if you think you're going to vote your way out of the board of JP Morgan running your country, I think you've got another thing coming. I think the only way you're going to get JP Morgan out of the White House and out of the Fed and out of the Treasury and out of the entire government is to literally make it that way by taking to the streets, organizing, really, really fighting back. And that's just the deal. This isn't changing by a vote.
Get your United Corporations of America shirt at the Status Coup store. Just saying. Selling like hotcakes at the Status Coup store. Colin, we really need to get a hoodie for the winter. United Corporations of America. Yeah, it's absolutely vile. If we had a president who was a friend of workers, he would be fucking on TV right now telling those workers, any worker who brings or tells their workers to come, any employer who tells their workers to come in will be looked into by my Department of Justice, and workers will be paid staying home. Period. End of story.
Preemptive. Guys, I'm declaring Florida a state of emergency for today. Tomorrow we'll assess to see after landfall who needs to stay in emergency. But for right now, in an absolute overkill of caution, we're going to ask that all people go home, basically. I mean, for God's sake, what the hell?
And by the way, right-wing populist Ron DeSantis, I'm sure is going to, really going to give these folks a scolding, these employers.
Scum Sig Heil. I mean, what a horrible person.
Moving on, while we have a few minutes left, I want to get into this. Striketober is here. There's nurses' strikes going on right now. Teacher strikes going on right now, and possibly still a rail strike. I did an interview with a rail worker today. We'll air the full interview tomorrow. But interesting enough, remember when Biden came out in front of the camera saying we have a tentative deal, it's great for workers, this and that, most of the workers had not seen the deal. And there were reports that even the union bosses who met with Biden, that it wasn't actually written. So presumably Biden kind of preemptively went out there and lied and said there was a rail strike deal, and he was getting slobbered over, Biden showed leadership, he averted an economic shutdown. Well, I spoke with a rail worker today, and he seemed to indicate he thinks Biden made that up. Let's take a look. This seems like, crumbs, really, when...
Hey, it got Joe Biden through the midterm and the Democrats to the midterm elections. Mission accomplished. The fact is, I don't believe there was a tentative agreement in writing when he had made that statement. When it was announced, I don't think they had anything in writing right then, and they probably continued to negotiate thereafter and come up with the written agreement that we now have. I don't see what to me, the companies get everything they want. They get automatic bid scheduling. Okay, so I can't claim jobs. Okay, if I'm a younger man, I'm on top of the barrel. So when I want a day off, I just bid to a job that has some off days that I want. I can move over to them. But for everybody else, they can't claim vacation vacancies. They can't claim temporary vacancies as they could before, and go to another job that had some off days that they could be off. That's all gone. They have to bid in a job, and that's the job they're stuck on for that week. And there's not a lot of movement because people go to the job that they stand for, the best job they stand for, and that's what they're on. And so it eliminates, again, it's a tightening of the screws, eliminating the ability for us to create off days when we need them, and just become essentially the slaves of the railroad.
So I know you got to go, Steve, but I wanted to play that because I think it's pretty clear Biden told the union guys who had that, overnight negotiating deal, I'm going to go out there and say this deal is done, and you're going to nod and smile. I think that's what happened here. And this is the man who says, I'm Union Man Joe, and my daddy told me, a job is dignity. I think he totally made it up, and there was no agreement. And the union bosses took it.
I was going to say, what I heard from some people that are in the union space was that Biden had discussed with the union leaders. And remember, union leadership and union membership are not synonymous. Union leadership enjoys 5-star meals, enjoys golfing with Trump, enjoys golfing with whomever, Buttigieg, hanging out at the wine cave. They enjoy all of that stuff, okay? So the idea of union leaders saying, hey, we have a way of kind of forcing the situation to happen in this way and accepting it from whatever fashion, it wouldn't shock me if the union leader said, okay. And then said, well, we'll take it back for a vote, but yeah, okay. And then the people are like, what are you talking about? We don't want that rejected. I could see that. I could very much see that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And by the way, the machinists union today agreed to a tentative agreement. And I read what they are selling to their members. Colin, do you have that list? Your solidarity pays off with a new, stronger tentative agreement. Look at this, Steve. Part of what they are trying to sell to their leadership is overtime. For the first time, we also got the carriers to agree to a joint study on overtime, forced overtime policies, and overtime meal options. This is like, reparations. Oh, we're going to have form a committee to study the issue. They are selling as part of the tentative agreement. For the first time, we got the carriers to agree to a joint study on overtime. I mean, wow. Thank you, union bosses. I'm glad I pay my dues for that study on overtime. These fucking companies are making billions in profits, and these workers are not getting overtime.
It's ridiculous.
So
ridiculous. It used to be when I was in union at Bell Atlantic. Now, mind you, this is 93 through.
Oh, I thought this was 1864.
It's not quite that. I don't have the Lincoln beard without the mustache. I've got a full face here. I'm still here, but back in 93 through 90, I guess 98, when I was in the union, it was absolutely like little teeny pieces of nothing burgers that we would be fighting over. And the idea was that we got, for the first 9 hours of overtime, we had time and a half. After the ninth hour, it was all double time. And if you worked on a holiday, it was double time and a half. And if you worked on a Sunday, it was automatically time and a half. Unions used to have that, a little bit of something that was nice union wage scale. I was a cable splicer at the phone company. It was great. Bucket truck, you name it. Made a lot of money. It was great. Go work on Sundays. Who gives a shit? I'm not going to church right now. I'm going to make money. But they've stripped all that. I mean, like literally, you had pensions back then. The pensions are gone. All that stuff is gone. And you can't say that it's the union people that did away with it. It was the damn bosses that allowed themselves to negotiate out of it, all in the name of keeping tight with the money. Keeping
Right.
tight with the money.
All right. I know you got to go cook dinner.
Yes, sir.
Tell people where they can find you, Steve.
Yes. First things first, please check out this past Sunday's Let's Get Ready to Grumble here on Status Coup. Colin did a great job editing it. It was a real labor of love because, ironically, I went to film myself for the Grumble, and I had my phone turned the wrong damn direction. So it filmed a whole bunch of concrete, and it's stupid. I've done a million of these things. You would think I'd know better. But Colin made it into the most amazing thing. And so please do check out Let's Get Ready to Grumble here at Status Coup. Sundays, 2 p.m. usually. It was like 4:30 this Sunday. A lot of editing that went into it. But you can find me at realprogressives.org, which is our website. You can find me at my podcast, which is Macro and Cheese. We release every Saturday morning. Please check it out, folks. If you want to learn the stuff I talk about, it's all in these podcasts. And Monday, Wednesday, Friday on my own channel, which is Real Progress in Action, and the Rogue Scholar. So please check it out. You can get the Rogue Scholar, by the way, on podcast too. If you don't want to see my ugly mugshot, you can go ahead and listen to me, if you can stand my voice, on podcast as well. So thank you so much, Jordan.
Thank you, sir. We'll see you Sunday and then next week.
Happy belated birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. While Steve goes, I am happy to say we have a little breaking news. So I have been covering recently this dirty backroom deal between Chucky Sleaze Schumer, President Joe Manchin, and Biden, of course. So in order to get President Manchin's vote for the Inflation Reduction Act, which frankly is a joke, in my opinion, the Inflation Reduction Act. If I was in the Senate, I would have voted against it. But in order to get Manchin's vote, Biden, Schumer promised Manchin a permitting reform deal, which is essentially fast-tracking permits for fossil fuel projects like the Mountain Valley Pipeline, which is a very dangerous natural gas pipeline, that is going underneath the steepest slopes of America in Virginia and West Virginia, the Appalachian Trail. Very dangerous. Activists on the ground have been fighting against this for years. First story we covered, actually, on the ground at Status Coup was in Virginia on Bent Mountain, where we interviewed Red and Terry Miner, mother and daughter, who literally climbed atop their trees and protested. They call it tree sit-ins, atop their trees to stop their tree from getting cut down so that the pipeline company could put the pipe underneath their property on Bent Mountain. Activists successfully blocked the Mountain Valley Pipeline. The permits were denied because it's very dangerous. It's going through, I think, 4,000 waterways in the Appalachian Trail. If and when it explodes, it has a 2.5-mile blast radius and would kill a lot of people. But of course, Schumer and Biden agreed to this deal that would get Manchin's vote and basically allow Virginia and West Virginia to be a sacrifice zone for the Mountain Valley Pipeline. Well, in a ironic twist, the Republicans, pissed that Manchin gave his vote for the Inflation Reduction Act, said, we're not going to vote for your little side deal of permitting reform, which, get this, the bill for this permitting reform would have fast-tracked the Mountain Valley Pipeline that has already been denied by several agencies, and would have made it where it could not be, Mountain Valley Pipeline could not be challenged in court. So it would go through, fast-track the permits, no court challenge. Well, thanks to, in this case, Republicans, you don't usually get to say thank you to Republicans, and a good amount of progressives in the Democratic Party that said we wouldn't vote for this, down goes the Mountain Valley Pipeline. This is from Jonathan Sokolow, friend of the show. He's a lawyer in Virginia and an activist who's been fighting against the Mountain Valley Pipeline. Manchin just pulled his dirty deal from the continuing resolution at Manchin's request because he knew it was going to get voted down. Now, this does not mean it's over. Just because it's not going to be in the continuing resolution, which is a fancy term for the government funding bill, doesn't mean Chucky Sleaze and President Biden won't try to sneak it in somewhere else. So activists need to keep their eye on the ball. Environmental activists, credit to them, who successfully beat the Mountain Valley Pipeline years ago. And again, just now, listen, Manchin is probably livid. He promised his donors the Mountain Valley Pipeline. By the way, there is no need for the Mountain Valley Pipeline. There's not a huge demand for more natural gas in Virginia. There's plenty of supply in Virginia and West Virginia. This was for his donors. And Dominion Energy, who, if you live in Virginia, you know Dominion Energy has complete ownership of your government. They have bought off Terry McAuliffe, the former Virginia governor. They've bought off the local state assembly, and of course the Republican Governor Youngkin. So Dominion is the owner of Mountain Valley Pipeline, and they get an L. They lose. But let's not take our eye off the ball, because don't put it past Schumer and Biden to sneak it in another way under the cloak of darkness. So we'll stay on it. But for now, Mountain Valley Pipeline goes down. So credit to the activists who made that happen. I want to read some super chats. By the way, I'm gonna go over to call in right after this live stream ends. Colin put the link to the call in at the top of the super chat. So call in is a call in app. So I'm gonna have my live show, and you could call in. We'll talk Bernie saying not ruling out 2024, and take any other questions, comments, concerns. We could talk Bernie, midterms, progressive therapy if you need some therapy. So I'll be live on call-in right after this. Please call in. I hate doing a monologue on call-in. So call in, even if you want to just, shoot the shit. So download the app. It's free on Android and iPhone. And just follow Status Coup so you'll get the alert when we're live on call-in. Let me read super chats. Not provided, $2. Bernie, Bernie, Bernie. All right, we know how you feel. Tony Dallas, $5. Steve is right. I recommend the book Slavery by Another Name by Douglas A. Blackman. 95 dead convicts were found in Sugar Land, Florida. Horrific. Definitely check that out. Double K, 1999. Thanks so much. Double K, another 1999. Thank you very much. Karen the Good, 999. Thanks for the info and insights. Thank you. Humorous, $10. So funny. I've been saying what this man Steve says for as many years as he's been alive. Nobody listened then either. Now look where we are. Love your show, Jordan. Thanks for everything. Thank you, Humorous. Humorous, $50. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on, Steve. I very much enjoy your commentary on many things, as well as your other channels. Everybody, let's not forget Colin. You know that poor guy that actually keeps the train on the track. Everybody say hi, Colin. Indeed. I tend to send Colin a bunch of shit 10 minutes before the live stream. He is an unsung hero. Double K, another 1999. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all the super chats. Remember, we can only grow as far as you take us. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you subscribe, but also sign up as a Status Coup member. You could sign up for as low as $5 to $10 a month. This is how we fund our on-the-ground reporting. I have a feeling there's going to be a railroad strike probably after the midterm elections. We want to be on the ground for that. We would love to cover some more of these unions, the union organizing going on, the workers on strike. We need funds to do that, whether it's me or freelancers around the country. As far as I know, we're still the only on-the-ground independent outlet that actually leaves the studio and covers what's actually going on that the corporate media covers up. In the flesh, we go on the ground to cover these things. So consider signing up, statuscoup.com/join. You get to support us. You get access to our monthly members call, our Discord channel, which is too quiet. If you're a member, get in that Discord channel. I said, what's up this morning, and only 2 people responded. So I'd love to see more chats going on in the Discord channel. They even have movie nights in the Discord channel. And behind-the-scenes videos when we're on the road. So membership gives you great perks. Consider signing up for as $5 to $10 a month. It makes a big difference. All right, I'm headed over to call-in. I hope you'll join me there where you could call in, and I'll take your calls. Thank you so much. We'll have an interview with a railroad worker tomorrow with an update on where we are in a possible rail strike. I'll be live if anything breaks. And Kim Brown, who's been doing great work for us, will be live at 5 o'clock tomorrow with her show on Status Coup. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you over on Call-In.